This is a great painting to hang up all summer long. I mean, who doesn't like a scarecrow? And especially for fall. This is a really cute one. It's not really super beginner. However, it's really not that hard. I mean, I broke it down step by step, so don't worry. The video is going to be quite straightforward to the point, and you're going to learn some awesome, cool little skills with this one. So, yeah, we're going to have lots of fun together. I know I did, because I had so much fun when I was painting this. And I also want to say thank you so much for patronizing my business. I truly, greatly appreciate it. Thank you so much. Before you begin painting, make sure that you have a nice clean surface that's flat and hard to work on. I have covered my table with a paper here to keep it nice and pretty. I have a wood floor, so I don't mind if any paint spills. I have an outfit on right now. I don't mind getting paint on. Once the paint dries, it does stain forever. I will be using acrylic paint today. I also have my hair tied back and all my jewelry off, so I only get paint on the canvas. The first supply that I'm going to use is a pre-stretched canvas that is over a wood frame. Now, I prefer to use these canvases because they're ready to go, they're very lightweight, and they're easy to hang on the wall. I don't have to buy extra pieces or spend a whole lot of money on a frame or anything. They're just straightforward and to the point. They already come pre-gessoed in the store. I recommend, if you can, buy them in bulk because, you know, that saves on the cost, because these little guys can get quite pricey. I have already pre-sketched out the design. Now, I have already made a couple of videos, and I actually wrote a small 50-page book that talks about how to transfer the image onto the canvas. So just to save time and energy for this video, so that way if you're a returning student, which I have many of, that way I'm not taking up too much of your time with the monotony of re-explaining everything over and over again. You can find those videos and the book that I wrote on my website. At the top, there's two sections, books and then videos. Just scroll through. And I talk about all the different methods. There are many different ways to transfer the image onto the canvas. My personal preferences, I prefer the projector. I find that it's quick, straight to the point. It's very easy to set up. It's right there. But if you don't want to spend, I mean, they can get quite pricey, so you could do the grid method. You could sketch it out. You can use a light box depending on what canvas and what type of thing, if you're painting on paper. I prefer to paint on canvas. That's my personal preference. I strongly recommend that you try different surfaces to paint on, to do it as an experiment to see how things go, because you might find something that's really cool. Like, for example, I experimented once and I painted Christmas trees all over a chair, a Christmas theme, and it was really cute and I totally loved it. It was so much fun. So go ahead and experiment. The more you experiment, the better artist you're going to become. Okay, so other supplies that I'm going to need. I'm going to need a paper plate. I prefer to use paper plates versus a plastic palette. Mostly the reason why is because the cleanup is way easier. Just way faster to the point. I like to use my handy dandy hair dryer. It makes the process a lot smoother and faster and quicker during the painting process. I have a rule with myself that I try to paint one painting a day. And I would like to continue, to have it finished. Once I start it, I finish it. Please, please, please don't start a painting and then never finish it, unless that's the look you're going for. That you want the look of the half finished is totally cute. But make sure you finish it, because I've had a lot of students that are still 3 months later working on projects, and it's like, you're never going to grow and develop as an artist if you're not practicing and using your craft. So the hairdryer really helps. Also, I like to use paper towels. I go through quite a few of them while I'm painting to help me clean for spills, and then mostly for my brushes. I have my water pitcher, clean water, fresh water. I like it because it has a handle, and I like this little spout area for bending the brushes. And then I also like how it kind of just tapers in right here, so it's less likely for there to be bumps. And I mean, I can still tip this over quite easily, but it's just, I don't know, more contained. All right, so let's get these things out of the way and let's start painting. Okay, so I suggest on this one to go ahead and do the background first and then overlap it. That way, in places like the hat and the arm, the hoe, the feet, like we want to have really sharp, crisp, clean edges. And so I feel that if we do the background first, it will help us to achieve that look way better. Okay, so I have fresh, clean water. Now your background can be any color that you want to make it. You don't even have to follow this. If you like the design and to show you how to do it, if you want to do like a field and a farmhouse in the background, totally go for it. Be brave. But I'm going to kind of keep things a little simple and just have kind of like a muted sky type of a look. But I do want to stay in the green tones, well, which is not really sky color, but I want to stay more green because I am going to make his little outfit blue, so I kind of do want it to stand out. So this is going to happen really super fast and quick. I'm going to get, let's see, I'm looking at my brushes over here, and I'm going to use a big square brush, big flat square, and then I'm going to use a big round brush, a round and a square for this. So I'm going to take my big square, I'm going to have my water, and I'm going to add water to all the areas of where there would be sky and space and all the background of the piece. Just adding a light dusting of water. Kind of did go over into his outfit just a little bit. It's okay. A little bit's okay. I don't want to drench it a whole bunch, but I still want a nice coating of water everywhere. Now, once I've done that, I'm going to come over here and add just the tiniest amount of green onto my palette. I'm going to take my round brush, dip it in water, get it wet, and come in here and take a tiny bit of paint and then just put it on my canvas. Just move it around, just a little bit of paint. I don't want a lot, and I'm just going to kind of move and just get it all over the place. I'm striving to have lots of textures and colors and shades, and I want a lot of different values of green to occur. Some areas can have lots of green, others have a little less. And if you notice, it's kind of almost looking like watercolors. Now, it's not going to be pretty at first, and as the water dries and the paint dries, it will take on a little life of its own. It'll move around. So this kind of is like beginning fall is what I'm trying to portray with this color here. Things have not yet begun to turn, but here he is, the trusty farmer, all ready to go for when they do. If you need to, add some more water. All right, that should be plenty. So I'm just going to take a minute and move this around and try to get a lot of different colors everywhere. You can move some colors around from one side to the other and just kind of work it until you get something that you're really happy with and you like. If you want to, you can go ahead and I have a lot of paint right there. If you want to, you can use a hair dryer, you can use a paper towel and dab off some areas. You could use your fingers and make little spots. I'm making a whole bunch of marks. Lots of marks, and they kind of do fade out. Let me go on the side here a little bit. All right. I'm going to go really quick with my paper towel and just wipe up the sides so I can just have a nice straight white back sides of my painting. You don't have to if you don't want to. You could let yours drip down a little if you know if that's the look you're going for. I'm kind of going for more of a sharper image here. So just drying up some of those sides. That's good. Now the more I mess with it, the more I'm going to get a blur and everything's going to start being even toned. Because see, like just messing and moving things around and stuff. But I do want to have like things happening. So I'm going to go ahead and be really fun for a quick moment and put my fingers and just be fun and make lines. Now I know this sounds weird. We're totally being kids and finger painting, but trust me, it'll be super cool. It'll really give depth to the background. See how they dry? It changes as it dries. And make sure that when you take a moment and look at all the edges that are not with what you're painting. So like I'm trying to get green all the way around all the edges here. Everything I want green. It's going to take a minute. Give it about 10-15 minutes to completely dry. Now I'm going to be choosing to wait until my painting is completely all the way dry before I continue on to the next step. We'll go over here and make some more lines and just give it some attitude and just work it as it's drying. Yeah, I'm liking it. I'm really liking how the background's kind of like disturbed like that, and it's not all just one shade of green. Like it's different. I mean, not the different shade of green. What I mean is a different opaqueness. That some areas have more pigment than other areas. So to speed up the process, I'm going to use my handy dandy hairdryer. seems to be about enough. Yep, it's all the way dry. Okay, so now I'm ready for the next step, which really could be any way we want to look at it. Let's go ahead and do his little hoe right here. So, well, his rake, it's more of a rake. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and use my round brush, and to make things easy for myself, so I don't have to go mixing colors, I have a tube of gray. I'm going to add a little bit of gray onto my palette. Notice how I've added the gray to the side and around the edges. That's on purpose. It's I try to keep my palette clean and clear, and the goal is to only really use one palette per painting. Otherwise, you've got a whole bunch of plates with paint on them, and it gets very annoying to go back and forth between all the plates. And honestly, you really don't need to take out a lot of painting. And I only really take out the paint I need as I need it. So yeah, don't waste your paint. And also, I take it out a little bit at a time, so that way when I do take it out, it saves the moisture and whatnot, so it's more workable for a longer period of time. Okay, so now I'm just covering his rake with gray. And it's covering up the green quite nicely. If you have thin body paints, which typically tend to be the cheaper quality paints, the cheaper paints at the store tend to be thin bodied, you might need to do a couple layers of coats to cover. Now, in between each coat, I recommend to allow it to dry fully before you add another one. Otherwise, it's just not really going to adhere and stick to the canvas, and you're just moving paint around. It's going to take you a lot longer. I'm going to go in here and got some little areas that are in between the grass of the arm. Trying to make sure that my lines are straight, but don't stress out too much. It's just a painting. Let it be. And especially this one is very cartoony, so it doesn't have to be super perfect. Let it be what it is, and the eye will fill in the story. I am trying to keep my strokes going vertical, mostly because of I'm sorry, I'm thinking about too many things, like the next move I'm going to make before this one. But anyways, it's mostly just because, like, brush strokes and trying to show the shininess of the metal. Now, you could totally do this in brown as well. You could make yours brassy and old, or like new looking. I'm going more for the new look. I've chosen not to make this one brown because I'm going to have brown in the outfit itself with the hair and stuff like that. So I've already got a lot of brown going on here. I don't want this painting to start looking monochromatic, which means a painting that's a picture, an image that is mostly just like one hue but many different values. A value is when we add white to a pigment to lighten it, like how light or dark the pigment is, if it's very vibrant. You know me, I like the brush strokes, very into that look. that fun? Yes. Okay, so for now, I think that's pretty much all the gray. I probably will on the bird, but I'm gonna do that later. So I'm gonna only show this one time during the video, so I'm not very repetitious and I don't want to annoy you, but this is how I clean brushes. I take the paper towel, I wipe off the excess goopiness of the brush. I'm pulling, I'm not pushing into the paper towel, I'm pulling and I'm rotating. Then I'm gonna go into my water, move it around a little bit. I'm bending the bristles slightly on the bottom, not too much, just enough that needs to be. Then I'm going to come up here and bend on the top here, allowing the water to kind of drain out just a little bit. I'm going to go back into my paper towel and set it down and then pull. Rotate, pull, rotate, pull. And then I see that no more gray is coming off onto my paper towel, which means my brush is all the way clean. Okay, so now for the next step. I always think that I feel that it's always good to work from the outside, from really far away to closer to me, and then whatever deep down inside to the outside. So for him, that would be his body. So let's go ahead and make a nice, pretty peachy tone color. Now you can make your guy whatever color you want. I mean, there's so many choices and so many ways to go about doing it. I'm going to show you one way. I'm going to add a tiny bit of white. I'm going to go and add a tiny bit of red. Just the smallest amount. I'm going to add a little bit of yellow. A little bit more yellow than red. Probably, you know what? Probably should add a little more to that. Okay, so then I'm going to take one of my brushes and I'm going to mix it and see what color I got. Not quite, but it's getting there. Ooh, it's kind of pink. I think I added a little too much red on this one. That's okay. I can fix that. Got two choices. I could add some yellow or I can add some white. Now if I add white to this, what's going to happen is the pink is just going to be more lighter pink. If I add yellow, it's going to be a little bit more orangey. I don't know. Actually, this is a good tone, but it's too pink. I'm liking it. We're almost there. Not quite. So let's go ahead and add a little bit more yellow and see what we have there. I would say to add 2 parts yellow to 1 part white and 1 part red. And then maybe a half a part red probably. Save on paint, don't need to make a whole lot. Okay, got a little bit more orangey. I'm liking it. Liking the peachy color that I'm getting. Let's do a dab test. Yeah, that's cute. I'm liking it. It's working. Okay, so I have a small round brush here that I used for mixing. And I'm going to go ahead and just apply the pinky orange, which is really more, I don't know, now that I see it over the green, it's more of a pink. Now, because this is cartoony, on purpose, I'm not going to be like doing a whole bunch of shading in the skin. I do have other classes, video classes that I've taught that teach about that. They're on the website, so check it out and we'll go into more depth when if you were trying to paint like a painting in the realism sort of style to look more like a photograph and more like life. I also wrote a whole book on it. It's 150 pages and it's on the topic of mixing paint for skin tones and just all about skin tones. This one, though, is going to be cartoony. So to lend itself more to that style of cartooniness, I'm just going to go ahead and pick one color. I'm going to go ahead and do the other hand. Now I am paying attention and trying to move this paint where I'm only putting it in areas where the hand would go. I'm trying to make sure that the lines and the edges that I'm creating with the color, that they're very sharp and very contrasting a lot. I'm not worrying too much at the moment about brush strokes. I'm just more about applying paint right here. I am kind of applying the paint a little thick. That's my style. Everybody's got a unique little way that they do their things, and this is kind of more how I do it, and I don't know, I like the end result. Also, I want to make sure I'm covering up that green. I might have to do a second coat. We'll see. So now I'm going to go ahead and do the face. Now, if you do the face and you accidentally cover up some of your lines, don't worry about it. The reference photo is on the website, so you can still see. I'm going to have when I finish this painting, I'll take good glamour shots of it, and I'll have it up there on the website. And next to it, I also have the outline of the design. So go ahead and reference that. I reference photos all the time. I don't think there's any shame in it. I think when I was at the university, they had us reference photos all the time. There was no problem with it. It does look like I'm going to need a second coat here. That's okay. Just more time we get to hang out and have fun together. Thank you so much for painting with me. I like it when I have a buddy to paint with. Alright, so I have a really good coating that I like. I'm pretty happy with it. Got the little shirt. So yeah, so I'm going to move my paint aside, and I'm going to take my handy dandy hairdryer and just kind of dry this a little bit so I can put a second coat. If I continue to apply paint over and over and over again on wet paint, I'm just going to add a lot of paint, and it's not really going to do... It's not going to cover as well, and I'm really just going to be caking it on. But if I allow the paint to dry and then I apply another coat, it's going to cover that much easier and faster, and it'll be a way better look. hasn't fully dried all the way. However, it's pretty dry for the most part. I can go ahead and add an extra coating. Yeah, it's covering the green really nice. This is also a good technique right here if you ever have boo-boos in your painting that you want to fix. Allow the paint to dry fully. I know it sounds like common sense, but I have seen so many of my students where they get upset and they struggle and they struggle and they just keep adding more wet paint onto more wet paint, and it's just turning into mud. We don't want that. So the way that we don't get mud is that we just continue to let it dry and then go back over it. And then you can just change the design and change what you did. But it's harder to do that when your paint is really wet and you're just adding more wet paint on to wet paint. And if at any time that you get really frustrated, just turn off the video, take a break. I take breaks all the time. Okay, I'm going to do some brush strokes. I'm going to go horizontal 4 times. And what that's going to do is they're going to look like fingers. When it dries, I'll have those grooves of brush strokes and they'll look fingery. Can do the same here. Remember, only 4 on the hand and then the 5 with the thumb. Unless you want to do like just cartoony. But yeah, it's not picking it up a whole lot on the camera, but here I can see that those brush marks are really looking nicely to make that look of those fingers right there. Now go ahead and do the same thing with the face. Now your painting's going to look odd and weird at the beginning. That's normal. If you're looking at your painting, you're like right now and you're like, what? Don't worry. I'm looking at my painting right now going, what? It's not until like the last 10 minutes where everything comes together and you got those final highlights and then it's like, oh yeah. So don't worry. It's going to look like a monster for a little bit. That's normal. Don't be hard on yourself. Yeah, it's coming along really nicely. I'm liking it. It looks pretty good. Yes. Okay, so go ahead and clean your brush. And let's see, what's the next step? Well, how about we work on his shirt? And then we'll work on the pants because his shirt is underneath and tucked into his pants. That way when we do the pants, it'll be a nice, crisp, clear edge. Okay, so I'm going to choose to do mine in red just because I think it looks cool. Go ahead and do your shirt in whatever color you want. Like maybe you might want a purple, could be cute. Really any color, really. I am going to be using a lot of yellows and stuff for the hair over here and a little bit of brown. So I'd recommend maybe steering clear of the brown for a minute while we, yeah, for the shirt. So just don't use brown. Use another color. Kind of does make it a little Christmassy to have the red. So now I'm just going to apply the paint everywhere where the shirt would be. I'm going to be very careful that I do not apply paint on areas that are like not the shirt, because then I'm just going to have to do more and more layers to cover up that red with the blue and stuff, and make sure that it's like one clear good pass And that's, you know, you don't have to really mess with it. Just one good clear pass and then let it be. So I'm applying the paint right now. Once I have a nice little coating of this paint, I'm going to go back and work on the brush strokes a little bit just to keep them coming from the shoulder into the towards the hand, the wrist. And that'll just, it almost like indicates folds in the fabric. Yeah, that looks good. I'm going to go ahead and do, he's got a little square here just under the chin because he's got little overalls on. With this area, I'm not going to pay too much attention on the brush strokes. It is what it is. Be careful if your face is still wet, be careful that you're not blending those two colors together just to make it easier on yourself. Okay, so now we have the shoulder right here. I am using a round brush for this. Okay, so now let's do, he's got like a tie that's around his wrist, like almost like a bracelet, but on the outside of the clothing. It's kind of odd, but it's like it's holding him together. So, but the shirt is still there. So the cuff of the shirt is by where his wrist is, which is really more the forearm, really, because the hand's pretty far away. He's been bound. And then I'm going to go ahead and do the same for the other one. And with these ones, I'm going to go ahead and allow the brush strokes to go horizontal just because, to give it a different little look. Yeah, that's beautiful. I'm liking that a lot. Okay, so we've got a little patch here, right here of red, because we can still see the arm. Notice how I'm taking care that I'm not putting paint on the other areas that would be different colors. And there you have it. Oh, he's so cute. Okay, so now I think it would be okay to do the overalls. We do need a moment for it to dry. I'm thinking about making it, so this is blue, and then this is blue. You could, if you don't want to make this blue, you could go with the shirt color and make your hat that color, but I'm going to choose not to do that. Now the little crow here, he's going to be black and gray. So just steer clear of using color black and gray for the hat. I think that's going to be the only area that I use red. So I'm going to go ahead and wipe it off my brush and clean my brush really good. And just to give it a minute to dry, I'm going to go ahead and work on the shoes. So with the shoes, I'm going to be using black. You could probably use like a really dark brown if you wanted to show it's muddy and dirty. I'm just going to go ahead and use black. I'm still using my round brush. I'm going to come in here and just add black to where the areas of the shoes are. I am going to try to take care that I do go over some of my pencil marks so it's not showing, because the pencil marks really do show up in the green, and I really don't want to have my pencil marks showing. And be very careful when you're applying the black, because it's a very overpowering color. if you don't like where you've put your black, you're gonna have to do a lot of work to cover it up with many layers of paint. And then with this green, I kind of don't want to mess up the green because it'll be practically near impossible on the same canvas to try to get that same shade and that same look back again. So I'm just going to save myself a whole bunch of heartache and just not. If you want to, go ahead and put on some music. The only reason I don't have music on right now is that I have so many people that take my classes and everybody has different tastes of what type of music they like to listen to. So go ahead and pop in whatever makes you happy and makes you get inspired. Right, so I'm kind of liking it. It's coming out really cute. I'm going to hold off on the crow for a minute until we get the hat. Let's see. I think it would be a good idea if we could do which, you know what, technically we probably should have done the hair, the straw that's coming out. We probably should have done that before the red, but don't worry, it's fine, it's okay. I'm gonna wash my brush and I'm gonna take a few seconds here and just really dry my painting as much as I can dry it. That way when I am applying the different colors, they're not gonna run together and mix on the canvas. your paint is all the way dry when it's no longer shiny. I do see a couple little areas of shininess, but not a whole lot. So I think it's safe to move on. So let's go ahead and work on the overalls. I am going to make my overalls blue. So I'm going to add a little tiny blue to my palette. Don't need a whole lot. Save your paint. And I'm going to use a small square brush. I feel that using a square brush for this is going to look way cooler than using a round brush. You will get a different little look, like for example, these are kind of more tubular type lines. I'm going for more of a square kind of a look, but really it's just fabric. So I'm going to, let's start up here on the overalls. I'm going to cover in the overalls. Now I've only added a little bit of paint to my brush. I don't need to overdo it. Oftentimes I see beginners just overloading their brushes with paint, and this is not a time to do that. So see how, look at my brush. See how much paint I added and how far that I added the paint to. I didn't add the paint all the way to the end of the fibers, just a little bit. I find that when I do this and I just add a little bit to the end, I have more control over what I'm doing. Be very careful you don't go into your face and you have a crisp, clear, sharp line. If you accidentally do go over, you can always wipe it off because the underside is already dry. So now I'm just going to continue and I'm going to fill in the rest of the overalls. I'm going to make sure that my brush strokes are going to be all in one direction, that they all just kind of line up together. If you work fast after you apply the paint, you could always take another little step just like I did there, and you can go back over and readjust those marks that you've made. These marks will help you in defining what's overlapping with what. But you must work really quick if you want to go back over and back over many times. Now, because blue is a very dark, cool color, I am taking care that I'm not going and applying paint on areas I don't want blue to be. It's going to have to take many times to overlap and put many different layers on, and I just don't really want to do that. It's looking quite nice. I'm going to save and do the pocket at the end so that way I get some different lines going on and it's going to help define the pocket. Yeah, that's looking really cute. I love it. All right. So he's got a band because they're trying to keep in the straw for the Scarecrow. So on the side here, he's got a little pieces of fabric that are coming out. Yep, looking very cute. Okay, so now for the hat. I'm going to do the same thing. And I'm going to make my strokes a little bit sideways and horizontal. Just 'cause. Just going to go with the edge of the brim of the hat. Ooh, coming together very nicely. Be careful with the beak that you don't get blue on the beak, so you're going to have to put a lot of colors with that yellow to have to cover it up. All right, so that's looking really good. Yep, we need to do the pocket. Now with this one, so it looks more patchy, I'm going to go ahead and go sideways. I'm going to go horizontal with this square patch right here. And those lines will really show up. Now, I know it's not really showing up on the camera that well with these brush strokes and lines, but I can definitely see them here, and they're looking quite awesome. Yes, very cute. Okay, so I'm going to clean my brush. And let's see. How about we do the bands around the ankles? Now there are many choices of colors that we can pick. We could go silver and be like it's a little bit of wire. So I'm going to go ahead with I'm going to take a round for this one. And I'm going to clean round, get all the color off, and then I'm going to go in with some gray and just get those bands that are holding him. There's a big piece of wire that they manipulated and bent a whole bunch, and it's holding up everything. Don't forget to do the feet. There we go. Very lovely. All right. So wipe off the brush and clean it. Always make sure between colors, and even every once in a while, just keep cleaning off your brush because the paint does dry on there. It gets all sticky and the bristles get together and it's no longer good anymore. So always keep washing your brushes and keeping them clean throughout the painting. I think it would be a good time to do some of the hair. I'm excited. It's going to be fun. Gonna make sure that the blue's kind of dry on the hat. I see a lot of shiny areas, so I'm gonna, yeah. How about we do the birdie? That way we can wait for the blue to dry before we go into that yellow, because they're really gonna mix together and make greens. But the black is very overpowering. Now this bird is a crow. So I'm going to keep him in the black and the grays. So right now I'm just going to give a nice little coat of the bird on here. I'm going to flick out a little bit, doing little lines, little spiky swooshes. And by doing these little flicks, what I'm creating is the illusion of little feathers. So by doing these little flicks around the outside edges, it's as though there's many different feathers and it's a broken line. Painting is just a series of swooshes. Try to make each little one very distinct and unique. Little swoosh. We want to see like very pointy little swooshes. Okay, so now that I've done that, I'm going to come to the back of the tail and do swooshes, and I'm covering it up. The same thing, I'm kind of overlapping a little bit. Now, it's not showing up on the camera, but I can see it. I see the textures between, like, it's like applying paint and pulling off paint at the same time when I'm doing this. And it's getting a lot of brush strokes in here. I'm using my small filbert bright over here, and it's really getting those, like, a lot of brush strokes, a lot of indentations, and a lot of things happening. A lot of texture. I'm going to go ahead and do the rest of the face. So I'm covering the entire bird's body with little tiny swooshes. Little swooshes. That needs a minute to dry. We're going to add more textures and colors, but I'm going to let it dry for a moment. What we can do while we're waiting for that to dry is, let's go ahead and do the hair. I'm cleaning off my brush. I'm staying with my Filbert Bright. If you would like to use a liner brush, that might be a little bit more easier to use. I'm going to add some fresh yellow to my palette. Don't need a whole lot. And I'm also going to add some brown. Okay, so I'm going to work kind of fast because I do want to blend a little bit into the canvas itself. I'm going to start down here with the feet because they seem pretty dry down here. And I'm going to go with the brown and do swooshes just like what I did with the bird. However, these ones are just going to be bigger and thicker swooshes. So I'm going to go ahead and apply some of the brown, trying to make sure that I get a ton of brush strokes in there because it's going to show the fiber in the way that the straw is. And I am trying to go with the grain of the way that the straw would be. Like how it would be, like the angle that it would be in. Now some of these are not going to be in front. Like these little guys right here, they're not in front of the foot. They're going behind the foot. So we really don't see them. Okay, so now I have a nice little coating of that. I'm going to wipe off my brush. I'm going to come in with some yellow and swoosh it in there. And I'm going to have to reapply with fresh yellow pretty much every swoosh. I still want to see some brown in there. Trying to get in a lot of brush strokes as possible because that's really going to show individual blades of straw. And there we go. Don't worry about going too many times over. I did one pass over on this side. The left side I kind of added more hue to it. The more that you go back and forth and over and over again, back and forth like this, you're going to end up blending the colors a whole lot. And it's not really going to, I mean, it's going to be cool, but it's just going to, it's going to be a lighter brown. I want to see the yellow and the brown in there at the same time. So therefore, I'm only going to really do one, maybe two passes. So now that I have those little pieces of straw, I'm going to go back in with my yellow and really try to make it, ooh, oh boy, that might have been too much. It's okay, I can borrow. Instead of coming back from the plate, I could go over it again and try to pick up some of the yellow to move it. Oh no, if you don't like it, just hurry up and wipe it off. That's the beauty when you have the painting underneath completely dry. You can just go really quick and wipe it off. And you're not going to disturb the color underneath because it's all the way dry. Yeah, it's cute. I like it. Very cute. So we're going to do the same thing, but we're going to go up and do them on the wrists of the ankles, or the wrists of the hands. This is coming along together really nicely. What a beautiful, beautiful painting. Very fun. I'm having a lot of fun. Thanks for hanging out with me today. have the nice blue on, brown on there. So now I'm going to go back in with some yellow. Be careful that you're not doing it over and over again many times, that you're just taking one pass. There we go. Very beautiful. So let's go ahead and do the other one. Now, to make things easier on myself so I'm not contorting my hand in a weird way, I'm just going to go ahead and turn my canvas. Feel free to always do that. I've noticed sometimes some of my new students, they won't do that. And you're going to hurt your back, your neck, you're not going to get those sharp edges and corners that you want. So go ahead and just turn your canvas. Make it easier on yourself. So this is like a Thanksgiving painting. Like a fall painting, but really I think this would be cute for all summer long too. It's because it's like with the green background, like he's just getting started for the year. Alright, so I'm going to remember, between colors, wipe off the pigment on the, wipe it off of the brush before you go back into the yellow. No more than 2 passes. We want to see the brown plus the yellow. If you don't like what you got, let it completely dry all the way. After it's dry, then you can go back in there and redo it again. But let it dry completely. That way you'll have better success next time than just applying wet on wet paint. Yeah, I think that's cute. He looks adorable. So cute. Okay, so now, oh my goodness, the hair. We're going to do the same thing with the hair. Take a moment, wash your brush. Every so often, even though we're working with the same thing, it's good to not let the paint cake in and dry into your bristles. Always make sure that you have a good clean brush. Only apply paint to the tip of the brush and then paint with that. If you have a nice instrument to work with every time you're adding paint to your canvas, you're going to have a lot more success with your painting. So now if I go over into the skin a little bit, that's okay. I'm going to try really hard not to go and get it all into the area of the hat because it's supposed to be underneath the hat. I'm going to make sure that my ends here are all really pointy and they have little personalities. Each little strand wants its own little personality and comes to its own little point at the end. While this paint is wet, I'm going to do it in sections. I like to do this better when the paint is wet because then it does do a tiny bit of blending onto the canvas. When you do the longer strands, you are going to have to go with some fresh yellow each and every time. I have a little space right there, and I feel like I need to fill it in, but I don't know. We'll see at the end. Maybe it might be good to just leave that open. I don't know. We'll see at the end. With painting, it's always developing. Like I had a master plan when I started, and it almost always happens to me that at the end, I don't really have that master plan. It just kind of, it changes. So go with what makes you happy. If there's something I'm doing that you're just not liking with your painting, change it. Go ahead and do that. I have taken many painting classes myself from many different teachers, and you know, you got to find your voice. To make things easier on myself, I think I'm just going to take a moment and turn my canvas. I am being mindful in the way that the hair would be. So like the blades and how they would be moving and living and what direction they would kind of been growing from. Ooh, how cute. Just absolutely adorable. I'm going to go ahead and mix an orange color. Now the way to make, well, you know what? I was going to do orange here, but maybe it would be best to do yellow. I'm going to take the yellow and do the beak. Make sure it comes to a nice pretty point and then it's rounded on the head area. Very lovely. Okay, so we're getting really close to the end. It's been a lot of fun. Yeah, I've been enjoying this quite a lot. Thank you for hanging out today. Oops, I got a little buggy. Oh, it's a little buggy. Bye-bye, little buggy. Go away. Okay, so let's see. Now let's get out some white and go over things here and there with the white. But I do want to take a quick moment. If you haven't, go ahead and dry your painting just a little bit. So now I'm going to go ahead and add some fresh white onto my palette. Now I've reserved the middle part of my palette to have some clean white. Notice what I'm doing with my palette when I added all the hues came around to the side. And then now if I wanted to mix any color and get a lighter value with the white, I can use this middle area right here for mixing. I'm not going to need to really mix anything right now at the moment, but like let's say I wanted a lighter blue. I could pull some of this blue out and put it here, and then pull some of that white out and put it there, and then mix it and have a lighter shade of blue here, a lighter hue. So it'll work out quite nicely. But for right now, let's go ahead and add little white things all over the painting. This is really, remember at the beginning I said the last little 5 minutes is where things start coming together and they start popping. This is what we're going to do, and it's all your hard work is really going to pay off right here. Okay, so I'm dipping into the white, and I'm going to go ahead and do the eyes. Now they're round on the top area, and they're more square and flat on the bottom. So I'm trying to keep that shape going so it's rounded on the top and then flat with sharp edges on the bottom. And then do the same here. Sometimes when I do eyes, I like to stand up a little bit and see it from up high. Especially because I'm not using an easel. That's looking really nice. I'm going to go ahead and add 2 little white dots for the eyes. And then let's go ahead and add some shininess to his rake. So I'm going to say that the sun is coming from this direction. So because of that, it's coming this direction. Everything that hits this side of the rake is going to have the highlight on it. I'm going to do a broken line that's really skinny. That's a little wavy. Doesn't have to be a straight, perfect line. And notice how I applied it on the left side of the rake. Not on the right or in the middle, more on the left side. Unbroken, skinny, wavy line. I'm going to do the same thing for these little forky areas. Remember to keep them kind of broken. Some not, some yes. And then I'm going to go here and let's see. Where do we want to do the line? Let's do it towards the top here. I didn't like this last one. That's okay. I can go wipe it off really quick before it has a chance to dry. And there you have it. So doesn't that just make the rake pop out a little bit more and be like, ooh, that's nice. Okay, so these things are wire. So I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing here. I was just in the middle, was fine with that one. And it's really, what we're doing is we're showing where the light is shining on the metal. There we are. Okay, so how about we work on some cross hat? I'm thinking. What next could we possibly do? I mean, there's so many choices. I keep thinking while we're painting this because there's so many different choices and cool ways that we can go with this painting to make it extra unique and cool. I'm going to take out the square, the small square. I'm going to wash it really good, get all that paint out. Make sure it's super dry. And I'm going to say that his shirt's got some plaid going on with it. So I'm going to come in here and just lightly dip into that black. Okay, so now I'm going to plaid up his shirt. It's almost like a tic-tac-toe. Two lines, one there for the arm, just sideways. I'm not going to really tic-tac-toe it. These ones, this one I kind of did. I've got my fibers going out to different directions. I'm not liking that. So I'm going to make my tic-tac-toe a little bit thicker. Kind of try to hide some of that. That's good, just a little bit. So look what I did, tic-tac-toe. They're right angles. I've just made a series of different right angles, and that really just gives the painting an extra little bit of oomph. I'm going to go back into my Filbert Bright, and I'm going to go ahead and do the nose and the mouth. Be very careful in particular and really pay attention to what I'm doing and trying to make it really skinny, and I'm trying to do it in one pass. There, one pass. I find that if I go over and over again with a line, it ends up getting a little too thick, and I really don't want that for this painting. I'm also going to do the nose. I need to turn for a minute. It's going to be an upside down C. There we go. See? upside down U, a smiley face, and a frowny face. The nose is the frowny face, and the mouth is the smiley face. Okay, so we forgot to add little buttons to our outfit. He needs little buttons to hold up his pants. So let's go ahead and just add one here. I'm going to do it in silver. So add in a little dot and then another little dot. So now his overalls, they're hooked very nicely. Okay. So now I'm going to put a little bit more oomph and pizzazz into the bird. So I'm going to use gray. And I'm going to do a series of swooshes, starting in the back and working my way forward. Now, I'm not going to do as many, and I'm not going to cover up all the black. This is just random little swooshes that I'm flicking out towards the back of the bird. And they're going to, little swooshes, and each one is a little swoosh that is flicking out towards the outside of the bird. Make sure you don't cover up all of the black. Just a little bit of the black here and there should be covered. Gives a little bit more oomph. Now notice that I didn't add any in the face where the head is, and so the reason for that is to give definition of where the face is and the head. Alright, so I want to add some more to his eyes, but I can see that it's still super, super shiny. I feel like it would be really super cute if we added some stitch marks into his clothing, like he's kind of homemade a little bit. So there's the brim of the hat. I'm going to add a stitch mark so it's like the base of the hat where the brim meets. And I'm going to add little lines. And they're going to be like a running stitch. Isn't that cute? Like he was sewn together. Let's do some more. I'm going to go and do some more stitches. Let's see, how are we going to do the stitches here? Let's do them on the inside of his pocket. I got 3 on the top, and then I got 3 on the bottom. And then I'm going to come up the side with 3. I'm not going to do any on this side because it's kind of like his belly and it's turned and we can't see the other side. So those are awesome stitches. He does appear that he's got one leg. So, decisions. It appears that he has one leg. What could we do? We could either go with some white or we can go ahead and use some black, which I think it would be better to do it as a shadow. So I'm going to go ahead with this black. And I'm going to figure the part of his leg would be like meow. So right there where the bracelets, they kind of appear as though they're meeting. I kind of put the black and then right there. So I just give a division in the legs. One little tiny line, and therefore it'll kind of break them apart a little bit. So we're pretty much to the end here. that's about it. Now I do want to add some dots to his eyes here, but the thing is, it's really super wet. The paint is like super, super wet. So if we add paint now, it's not going to adhere. So I'm going to take the hair dryer and dry the painting. I recommend you do the same thing. And take a quick moment and just stare and see what you got and see if there's any little things that you want to fix on your painting before we call this painting completely done. Use a liner brush and just the tip of the brush, dab it into the black. And I'm going to go ahead and in the middle of this crow's eyes, put a little black dot. Ooh, isn't that lovely? The crow just comes alive really nicely. So now with him, I'm kind of going to do the same thing and see how it looks. I'm going to you start small, and then you build it and grow it up and make it bigger and bigger and bigger as it goes until you get a nice shape that you like. A little bit at a time. Maybe it might help to stand up and see it from up high. That way you don't get a little guy that's cross-eyed. And just keep working the eye until you get something you like. I'm going to turn my painting for a second here. It's also a good idea at when you're doing this to see it, to turn your painting and seeing it from different angles. Really helps you see what you're missing and how you can fix it. I like the eyes, but I'm not in love with the eyes. I feel like they need to be just a tad bit bigger. That's cute. I like that. That works. When you're happy, let it be. Now we can stop here, but I always think it's a cute idea to do the eyes to make them a little bit shiny, like they're glistening a little bit. Now the best thing to do is to dry them before I do this. So I washed my brush, got it clean, right, and I'm going to use my hair dryer and dry it just for a few moments. With some white paint and with my liner brush, just a little bit, and I'm going to put a little bit of a white kind of oval on the top left of the black part of the eye, because remember we have the light source going in this way because we did everything on the left here with the highlights. We kind of want to continue that in with the eyes. That's the area that the light is going this way. So he's appearing as though he's looking this way, and the crow is looking straight at us. And it really makes for a really aesthetically pleasing painting. Especially because, like, see how his body is angled a little bit? It's just, I don't know, it's more visually appealing. Thank you so much for painting with me today. I had a whole bunch of fun doing this one. This one is super, super cute. Yeah, and I'm excited to see how your painting turns out. When you're done, can you please like send me a picture, like an email or in Messenger? Like I'm on over on all of the social medias. I'm on Facebook and Snapchat. I'm like everywhere. So please hashtag me in the photo and link me to it because I really want to see how yours turned out. I'm really excited. And I will see you next time. Thanks for hanging out today.